first thing first, I would like maybe give the word to Matteo, and Matteo, maybe if you want to introduce
Sure.
yourself, we can maybe understand what you do and why you're focused on legal tech.
Sure. Thank you very much, first of all, and good morning or good evening to everyone based on where you are. So as Giulio was saying, my name is Matteo Daste. I'm originally from Italy, but I'm based in the Bay Area. I've been in the Bay Area for over 20 years, and I practice law in the corporate field, working a lot of startups and early stage tech companies and investors. Uh, I'm a partner at a firm called Orrick. It's an international firm. We do all work with early stage tech companies as well, and the reason also I'm here is because personally I have a specific interest in legal tech. I think it's part of it is derived from the fact that I work with startups, and I've been seeing how technology in general has been disrupting several industries over the years, starting from industries initially associated with software products, and now gradually moving into industries that offer more traditional services. And initially technology has been impacting, let's say, lower skill type services like travel or customer service, or things that they don't require as much people input. But then over the more recent years, we have seen technology scaling up, and as a result of improvements in areas like AI and database processing and so forth, uh, software products and cloud-based products have emerged also for more sophisticated industries and services. And legal is one of them. Legal is probably one of the most difficult services for which technology can apply, because there are a lot of issues associated with it. There are privacy issues. There are also accuracy issues. Most of the times 99% is not enough when you work on on a legal transaction. Either it's perfect or it can't be completed. So anyway, there are a lot of interesting applications that have been coming up online in the last few years that we have witnessed. And I form also my opinions regarding what has worked and what has not worked, and why, and also where I see things developing from a industry standpoint. And so I'm happy to tell you more about these issues in today's talk.
Thanks, Matteo. So, right on what you just said. What do you think is what's your current view on the state of adoption of legal tech in the US, and particularly in California? I mean, what is the most and widely used technology when it comes to what you do? Maybe at Orrick, but also when it comes to the clients that you assist. Do they
Yeah,
implement legal tech? What features do they do they widely use?
yeah, I think there is a big suite or array of legal tech products, and ultimately they apply to either operations or different practice areas. So as far as operations, of course, and this is not new, there's a lot of software out there that improves the operations of law firms. Anything starting from billing to client management, document management, internal processes, workflows, and so forth. These, I think, they're under the bigger umbrella of legal tech, but they're not necessarily, deep tech solutions or particularly innovative solutions, but they do have, vertical applicability to the legal industry. If we look at true, what I define as like a true, legal tech applications from a practice standpoint, then I think the first distinction has to be between practice areas. And the big fork in the road is, on one hand, litigation, and the other hand is transactional practices. And I think historically legal tech has been adopted first in the litigation world, starting from technologies that would analyze and categorize, for example, case law, and cross-reference and cross-site resources available um, you know to lawyers looking at different archives of cases, all the way into going through large amounts of documents and helping lawyers process, for example, discovery requests. I don't know if everyone is familiar with the U.S. Litigation legal system, but basically, in the litigation process, there is a big phase called discovery, during which the different parties are exchanging a large amount of documents and data. And so legal tech software is widely used nowadays to help lawyers and paralegals and staff sort through this large amount of data to extract relevant information out of it. So I think that's a more mature, definitely a more mature segment. And the legal tech products are enterprise grade because the customers are law firms. Then on the corporate side, there are a lot of different products also there, depending on the different sub practice areas. I mean, I've seen startups, for example, tackling areas such as employment law, immigration law, family law, automating paperwork for visas, for divorces, for employment offer letter. So there is a lot of that already out there. And the results are mixed because the legal industry, for one thing, is a difficult nut to crack, and also sometimes it's not clear if these solutions are enterprise grade or consumer grade, meaning are they targeted to lawyers or are they targeted to consumers. But in the true corporate arena, like in the area where I work, we've certainly seen a lot of different efforts over the years in solutions trying to automate processes to generate documents. So you have, for example, startups like apart from LegalZoom, you have like startups like Clerky or Stripe Atlas that have automated the generation of incorporation documents. To also startups like Atrium, that's a startup that actually is no longer in business, that try to also automate additional processes such as financings. And there has also been mixed because these solutions have they have some of them like Clerky are more widely adopted, but they've not in my mind have not yet fully become as widespread as they could across the industry. And then there's a whole other segment of applications that I think that's the segment in which Speed Legal operates, where software companies are looking at AI as a way to really extract relevant information in a non-litigation setup. So parallel to what Kira might be for discovery and large-scale data rooms, you have companies like Speed Legal extracting data from different subsets and trying to help in-house lawyers or attorneys at law firms to also make sense out of data amounts.
Thanks a lot. This is very, very interesting. And please, everyone, if you have questions, feel free to write them in the chat here, or you could just turn on your microphones and we could ask questions to Matteo. We want to keep this as much interactive as we can. Sharna, I don't know if you had any questions to Matteo. Otherwise, I would have 1,000. So
you and I am happy to talk for as long as you guys want about this topic because I'm very interested about it. So.
No, same. I do have some questions. Thank you, Matteo. I'm very curious to hear that in your career so far, how much of a paradigm shift have you noticed in the legal community's attitude towards legal tech? And in your mind, what have been some of the catalysts? Is the pandemic and the shift to remote work one of them?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that look, I mean, we're all working remote nowadays, so we're all doing this via Zoom from home, which even like 3 years ago would have not been the case. So definitely, the pandemic has accelerated adoption of digital tools. Certainly, communication tools like Zoom, for example, or Google and so forth. On the other hand, I'm always puzzled by the fact that if you think about it, we're still, communicating primarily via email, and we're exchanging documents prepared on Word. So these are exactly the same tools that I used 20 plus years ago when I started. So that has not changed yet. So I would say that probably in the next few years, I would expect that if the next wave of legal tech might challenge these applications and come up with solutions that improve the communication processes from a document standpoint.
Truly, yeah. I would just like to quickly follow up, and just going off of that, how do you see legal teams or law firms that do actively adopt legal tech and innovation and welcome it? How do you think they get more of a competitive edge in today's legal industry over the ones that don't? Is this what lawyering of the future would look like?
Yeah, I mean, look, I give you my personal opinion. There's nothing, Orrick views. I just speak as Matteo, as an individual, and I think that with that disclaimer, I think the challenge for the legal industry in general is that ultimately, it's a very conservative industry, and it's difficult to get large firms, especially, to adopt radically new solutions. I think firms are open to gradual innovation, and I think certainly here in the Bay Area, the firms that market themselves as the tech or more tech, more at the forefront of the tech world, those firms have been investing in solutions to improve their workflows and document generation capabilities, oftentimes using internal resources. But it's still at an early stage. I think there's still a need for better solutions that are more user friendly, and they really address the heart of the problem for lawyers. My comment is that many times I get to see legal tech applications that are developed by engineers, and as a lawyer, I appreciate sometimes how these applications have a lot of nice features, but then oftentimes I also see that they may not have as much relevancy as I need, because I know that in our practice we need certain things and not others. And so sometimes a lot of these applications are good ideas, but execution is not as relevant as it could be. So I think that's the limitation in currently. And also I think that that coupled with the nature of law firms themselves and the sort of conservative nature of the industry has somewhat limited the speed at which applications have evolved.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree. I think there's a lot of scope for collaboration to sort of co-develop solutions. So, legal tech is often seen as this thing which is trying to replace lawyers, when instead we could just optimize lawyering. And my next question sort of leads into that, where what is your perspective on how legal tech promotes workspace creativity along with efficiency at law firms or in-house legal teams, or just legal teams at any businesses? What would you, for example, have your junior attorneys do instead of doing hours of doc review and just that long and tedious process? What would you have them focus on instead?
Yeah, so I'll answer your question, and there's also a question from Hamad in the chat that we'll answer next. But as far as collaborative tools, I think definitely that it could really help teams to have I think more efficient ways to manage information. I think, for example, a company that's been doing a very good job is a company called Carta, which many of you might already know. And they've done a great job, essentially, automating the process of managing, cap tables for startups, and then, adding features around it that, are going to the directions of, essentially creating, a one-stop shop for, a variety of additional, services and document, processing capabilities. So I think that that's ultimately, I think that's the direction where the industry is going, is towards adoption or reliance on platforms like that one, or cap shares is another one, which is a service, I believe, affiliated with the long-term stock exchange company. So I think that's where things are going from a usability standpoint. As far as Hamad's question, which is, do you have any recommended platform to get some ideas in legal tech innovation to start business? I think there's an excellent center for legal innovation at Stanford. So I would recommend, if you're interested in these topics, you check them out. And they have they've been holding an annual conference for the last at least 10 years, and they've been at the forefront of a lot of legal tech ideas and projects. So I would encourage you to check the Stanford legal innovation tech program or center.
I also have a question for Matteo. Carlo.
Hi, Carlo.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Definitely. Thank you so much for this. Very, very a lot of interesting thoughts about legal tech, and I have a question that is puzzling my mind in these days. So now that there is this ESG paradigm, how this will have an impact in the way lawyers are working, will work, and will promote themselves. Is there any link between ESG and technology that could be as could force lawyers to innovate, to embrace innovation in another way using technology?
With ESG, you mean like the social governance paradigm, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you what I saw to give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
There are companies like Ascent Compliance. It's a Canadian company. They work on the supply chain, and they monitor on a regulatory perspective all the elements that are used by manufacturer to produce things, and they see whether they are allowed or not. Then on the top of that, they offer consultancy. So the way they tackling the legal industry at the end is to get the information, organize them like the ERP did before with the accounting elements, with the accounting data, and then on top they build compliance and consultancy over agreements, contracts, and so on. So I was wondering whether you see this potential trend, and if it's something just limited, it's a niche, or it could be a new paradigm.
No, I definitely think that's a very interesting trend, and I think that it is in many ways a natural transition for the industry, because on one hand, at the end, as I said at the very beginning, unfortunately, as you guys who are lawyers know, in the legal industry, when you're looking for a legal tech solution, it needs to work, I would say, perfectly, or it needs to be accurate. If there are bugs or errors, so you cannot guarantee accuracy, then the solution it can be maybe helpful in some instances, but ultimately it's not going to be always reliable, and therefore that will limit its applicability and use. So, and the reality, I mean, there's a lot of talk about AI, but even today, just talking to my sources, the reality is that we're not there yet where AI can really replace the human reviewer. in a lot of different tasks. So I do believe that hybrid models are probably going to be the next phase. And, if you, in fact, I don't think it's an accident that oftentimes there are, come up online, so-called, virtual law firms, or like a hybrid sort of, consultancy business models whereby, there is a heavy emphasis on technology for, automating certain processes and solutions. I think ultimately the true driver of change in the industry is going to be economics, and it's going to be driven by the large law firms. So at some point, so long as the large law firms do well and are highly profitable, adopting legal tech solutions is going to be important, but it's not going to be as critical as here we may feel among ourselves who are kind of passionate about the industry. But I think ultimately, if there is really clear evidence that the business model is going to be able to do much better, using legal tech tools, then there will be wide adoption. And I foresee that as it happened in different industries, thinking about the accounting and finance industries previously, once that gate opens, the adoption will be very rapid. But I'm not sure yet, when that will be. It could be 1 year out, 2 years out, 5 years out. I don't know. I think it's ultimately, an economic, game.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Matteo. And I just had another question when it comes to tech skills and tech skills that lawyers should have. So what is the current state of let's say the education around tech skills, and what do law firms and corporate legal departments search today in lawyers? Is it enough to just be a lawyer? Is it enough to just have legal skills, or do you think this has changed a little bit?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good question. I think it has changed. I think there is an expectation that lawyers are more in tune with, at least I'm speaking for my industry in the corporate world, working with startups. The lawyers are more in tune with at least understanding certain concepts so they can relate to clients. But on the other hand, there's no training of any sort relating to coding or anything even remotely closer to that. I mean, the best level of skills that you can find is basically somebody who is good at managing spreadsheets and is able to whip out cap tables and payment spreadsheets with allocations and distribution formulas. That's ultimately where things are. And I think also the other point is that law firms ultimately are very specialized companies, so they realize that the lawyers are best at being lawyers, and to the extent that there are technology processes that are required in the practice, then the law firms hire specific technical personnel to deal with these aspects, at least at the large law firm level. So I don't see lawyers as a class necessarily becoming more technical or developing a more technology focused edge, at least in terms of skills, but I think they are eager for solutions that can make their life easier, or at least they can help them be more efficient.
So you're saying lawyers will continue to be lawyers, and they will be in team and completed with other personnel, which is going to focus around legal tech or other technical tasks.
Yeah, I
right?
think so. I mean, if you ask me also my vision in the future, I think what's going to happen is that certainly legal tech will in the future certainly possibly replace or supplement certain positions sort of at the lower skill level in law firms. So maybe a lot of functions that are today handled by clerks, by paralegals and so forth, like it's already happening, for example, with Carta, the management of cap tables, all that work that 10, 15 years ago was very labor intensive. Nowadays it's basically on a cloud-based solution. So I think what's going to happen is that legal tech will help automate a lot of those processes, and so law firms will might require a new class of employees that are more like project managers to manage this type of applications. But then lawyers will be really focused on true practice of law, so advisory work, high level transactional work versus spending time working on spreadsheets.
Sharna, you wanted to, yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I just have one last question. I have a professor here at Berkeley who ends every class or any discussion with the one question. So ultimately, what are your hopes, dreams, and fears? So I borrow from his style today, Matteo, and I want to ask you, so what is your one hope, your one dream, and your one fear with regard to legal tech innovation today?
Okay, so my hope is that ultimately the vast majority of what I do will be replaced by legal tech. And the dream is that in turn that will enable me to use my time to really focus on higher level true advisory work. That I think that's what lawyers are trained for in law school, and I think that's where our time is best spent, and that's where also our rates are best matched versus doing tasks where technology could be more efficient. And I think maybe the industry might fear that it could in some way some fashion or form eliminate positions, but ultimately you just look at the trend in different industries, and yes, on one hand maybe some positions were lost over time in certain industries, but then technology ultimately has made the pie bigger for everyone by replacing some obsolete positions and replacing them with more with different jobs and different roles. So I think that ultimately I forecast that at some point will happen in the legal industry as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Matteo.
You're welcome.
So I was wondering if there's any other question coming from the audience. That would be nice to to keep this, as we said, as much interactive as we can. Otherwise,
I didn't get the fear. Sorry, what's the fear for the legal tech?
I mean, I don't have a specific fear. My fear is that these solutions, if I have to say fear, is that personally they're not going to be adopted as rapidly as they should, and so that we'll be lagging innovation in the industry. And I think industry-wise, there may be a fear that these solutions will disrupt the services and the business models of law firms, and by, for example, eliminating some positions in favor of others. That might be a fear just by looking at a precedent of the same fear as it played out in different industries in the past. But I think ultimately it's going to be a win-win situation for everyone, because history teaches us that technology may be disruptive in the short term, causing pain points, but ultimately it gives it makes everybody better off in the long term.
Thanks.
Okay. As I said, we wanted to keep these online events as much practical and fast as we can. During the pandemic, we had the chance to participate in a lot of online events. So unless there are other questions, I would wrap it up and maybe conclude this session just by saying that this is the first of a series of events that we are going to organize. As we said, we would like to keep this these kind of events weekly. So we are working to have, we already have a nice pipeline of legal tech experts coming and giving us their view on a lot of different topics. Some you heard them today, but some we'll discuss also by also having demos from tech companies and by looking at legal tech projects from our from other people that are going to come and join us. And I just wanted to thank you all. Thank you, Sharna. Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Matteo. And Hans, we'll probably send a recap of today, right? And send a recap of what were the different topics that we had the chance to discuss, just to have a way to summarize what we said today.
Yes, of course. And also the recording of this will be published on YouTube. It will be sent to everyone. Maybe a good title for today could be From Contract Reviewers to Project Managers. And that's what Matteo was highlighting. But we'll find a good name, I guess. That's the idea.
Yeah. Only time will tell.
Thank you, Matteo. Yeah, thank you, everyone. We'll be in touch for the next meetings weekly. Join whenever you want. And we'll keep it short and sweet. Thank you, Sweet Legal Tech. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.